Let's now talk about power and its relation to language and gender. Power has a key role to play with gender, identity, caste, ethnicity, and all these social concepts in a society. These concepts are usually enacted through language, as we can see that our gender, our identity, they all are expressed, enacted, reinforced through language. So we can see that there can be a triangle of power, language, and gender in any society. Power can be defined as ability or capacity to influence other people, or we can call it to exert control over others. So language can be used as a tool of power, especially when we use it to influence other people. For example, we can see that participants in various conversations, they enact their background knowledge, beliefs, caste or status, political thinking, political background, and they do all these things in order to exert power over others, to impact even on their friends, to maintain a certain viewpoint, and thereby they're actually trying to exert some influence over others. Language can play a great role in producing and reproducing the underlying structures of power and control in a society, because it's the language through which its use or its manipulation or exploitation that we use, we try to control others and their beliefs, even ideologies, ways of living, styles. We all imagine in our lives we might be influenced by others, or we might have influenced others. You see that the major role in all those influences have been played by the language we use to interact with others. Cannon sees the differences arising from the way male and female children are raised and socialized in their local communities. And because they are raised in different ways in different local communities, so they develop in different cultures. And therefore, there is difference in their interaction and communication, their social behavior, and thereby the use of power at their workplaces. One of the markers of lower status of women has been their use of tentativeness in language. They do not use concrete expressions to share their point of view. Rather, they use tentative language. They are tentative in their talk, in their sharing of ideas, and that some scholars think that that's a kind of indication of their lower status. Lakoff, a very famous researcher in this regard, who worked a lot on gender and identity in relation to language, she also concludes that uncertainty and the need for approval in women talk is also an indication of their social inferiority, or a kind of their, it shows the dominance of men over women. This becomes even more prominent in cross-cultural or intercultural talks or discussions, where we could recognize that gender may vary as an issue, because in various cultures, various gender roles may be assumed by the participants in those societies. But when they interact with each other, those roles or expectations may be misunderstood, as it has come to us in various studies that especially the women belonging to Western context, when they travel to Asian context, they might have a different kind of expectation, but they meet a different reality when they reach those contexts. The postmodern stance has been that gender is not something which is static, rather it is something which is dynamic, and it is produced or performed, and it's not rather something which we are born with, rather it is something which we perform and achieve in a society. Similarly, in social constructionism, we can see that gender, like identity, is not a fixed characteristic of a human being. Rather, it is created in a context in which we interact with others, and how we interact, what we talk about, all these elements add to our gender identity. Cameron argues that the alleged problem of male-female misunderstanding appears to be common in those societies where feminism has made gender relations a matter of contestation, where various influences of feminism has made the gender differences look like a kind of battle between males and females. And this is Cameron's point of view. Other people might disagree with it. Some variables such as gender, age, social class, and race cannot be ignored in any society. We might agree or disagree with various studies focusing on their reflection in multiple societies, but one point which we all would agree that all these factors, they have a lot to do with the language, and they cannot be ignored in any society of the world. Individual cannot be free of the wider social, political, or economic pressures from dominant beliefs and ideologies that continue to stereotype one gender or another. So there are certain beliefs, social practices in various societies who keep on stereotyping males and females or different genders in a particular way. For example, in our own Pakistani society, typical patriarchal society, we assume that it's the male who is primarily responsible for earning the money to manage household or manage the expenses of a house, and females are usually expected to take care of the household and they do not have the bigger economic responsibility, though they do contribute in various ways. But this is, I'm talking about a general social expectations from women. So far, society is changing. We all know this might change in a different way, but this is what is the reality as I am talking now. There could be other social expectations or assumptions. For example, women as being more polite than men. We just assume that women are expected to be more polite, and men are expected to or are associated with a harsh social behavior or speech style, aggressive speech style as compared to women. So these are some of the assumptions which are based on certain social experiences or historical viewpoints which are a part of the gender conceptions of various societies. And they also decide about not only about gender roles, but also about the power of these genders and the use of language by these genders in various societies.